efforts to keep the Cayman community healthy.
It's hump day.
Roll back. Roll back. Every Wednesday and Thursday, all Rubus stations are rolling back the price on all fuel purchases by 20 cents. Every customer will save 20 cents on every gallon of fuel purchased on Wednesday and Thursday. Every customer. Only at Rubus. Roll back. Roll back.
Only at participating Rubus service station.
Live from Star 927 Studios in the center of Cayman's capital city, Georgetown. This is Straight Talk with Ruth Anna.
Good evening, everybody. You are tuned into Straight Talk, brought to you exclusively by Star 92.7 Premium Radio. I am your host, Ruth Anna Young, always honored to be your host here on Straight Talk every Monday through Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here and nowhere else other than Star 92.7. It is 5:05 on the Star 92.7 clock, and it is the 25th of August, and we are winding our way through this week, and it's certainly on to the end of August. We had our first press briefing in a number of weeks, and many updates and I guess provisional lifting of regulations and restrictions in relation to COVID-19. So it has been a full day for all of us, I do believe. However, I get the privilege and pleasure of catching up this afternoon with Miss Natalie from the National Gallery, who is in the virtual stream with me. For those who are tuned in via Facebook, we'll get to catch up with her, talk about what the National Gallery has been up to, what they did during COVID, and all of our curfews, what they're doing right now, and what can we look forward to at the National Gallery. If you've never been to the National Gallery, trust me, it is a place that you want to visit. I've had the opportunity to go on a few of occasions to tour exhibits as well as to attend events at the National Gallery, and always an amazing experience between Natalie and the rest of her team. So excited to catch up with them this afternoon. 943-3700 is the line in studio. You can also WhatsApp me at 324-1565, or certainly you can email me at straighttalkci@gmail.com should you want to have any questions, add any comments to this conversation. Now, I see my mom, who is already tuned in via Facebook, says, "Hi, beautiful and very smart host." I think she's biased, but hi, Mom. Thank you for tuning in. But you guys know the deal. Before I go any further into our conversation this afternoon, we always start our time together on Straight Talk with the reading of today's Daily Bread, just a moment focused on God. So today's Daily Bread is entitled Wonderful Reward. And the scripture comes from Psalms 119, verse 18, and reads, "Open my eyes that I may see wonderful things in your law." Dunlan, a teacher, had always been a reader, but one day it literally paid off. He was planning a trip and reviewing her lengthy travel insurance policy when on page 7, she discovered a wonderful reward. As part of their It Pays to Read contest, the company was giving away $10,000 to the first person to read that far into the contract. They also donated thousands of dollars to schools in Dunlan's area for children's literacy. She says, "I've always been that nerd who reads contracts. I was the most surprised of anyone." The psalmist wanted his eyes opened to see wonderful things about God. He must have had an understanding that God wants to be known, and so he longed for a deeper closeness to him. His desire was to see more of who God is, what he'd already given, and how to follow him more closely. He wrote, "Oh, how I love your law. I meditate on it all day long." We too have the privilege of taking time to ponder God, his character, and his provisions, to learn about and grow closer to him. God longs to instruct us, guide us, and open our hearts to who he is. When we search for him, he rewards us with greater wonder at who he is and the enjoyment of his presence. Thanks be to God for that word today. As always, here on Straight Talk, we remind you, we encourage you to spend time each and every day focused on his word, meditating on his grace and how awesome he is, whether it be the morning or the evening, or right here with me, Monday through Thursday on Straight Talk. With that, I invite Natalie into our conversation. And Natalie, I want to say you've been on Straight Talk with me before, right? I think you've been on the show with me before.
I don't think I have. I was just thinking about this the other day. I've wanted to. I love your show.
That means
so I've been watching, if that counts.
Yeah. Well, if you've been watching, you know what it means when it is your first time on Straight Talk, because I was trying to decide. I was like, have I just kind of caught up with Natalie at the gallery, or has she actually been on the show? I tend to mix those things up. So since it is your first time with me on Straight Talk, we do have the privilege of getting a Who Your Mama Is segment this afternoon. Right, just a few minutes for you to tell people a little bit about yourself, some of the professional stuff, some of the non-professional stuff, just so people can get to know you a little bit better. I know a lot of people already know you, but I always tell people, pretend as if everyone listening to this show this afternoon has never met you before and wants to get a little sneak peek into who Natalie is. So Natalie, everyone is dying to know who your mama is.
Very proud to call my mum Claire Coleman. I think a lot of people know Miss Claire from prep school days. She worked in the office at prep school for many, many years when we were kids.
Mhm.
And just before we came on today with Zana, we were talking about the importance of our families,
Mhm.
your connection to your sister, and how critical that is in your life. And I'm so blessed to have three amazing sisters. We've seen a lot of one of those people, Danielle Coleman, on hazard management updates in the last 3 or 4 months. So if you don't know the Colemans generally, Sydney, big sports player over the last 40 years, 50 years in Cayman, I think. So born and raised in Cayman, don't sound like I was, but this is home. And I have a very deep love for our history and culture in Cayman, and also fostering that culture to move forward through the visual arts, but many, many different forms of arts in the widest sense. Love spending my time as much as I can in Little Cayman when I've got weekends away, and felt very blessed to be back there a couple of weeks ago and enjoyed that sense of kind of taking off the island. It's been a long time, it feels, since we had a change of scenery. But, you know, at the same time, as we were saying previously, talking about feeling blessed in this moment, trying to put the best foot forward, and just am very grateful for the extra time that I've had with family and with friends and colleagues in this most incredible of times that we're living through.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And try to keep that energy up, you know, just saying it can feel very exhausting. It's a bit of a roller coaster, and 1 minute we're in lockdown, the next minute we're back open, and learning to socialize again has been kind of interesting. You know, when we've had that isolation, even with all of the Zoom stuff that we've been doing, we've been organizing a lot of panel discussions, both at the gallery, and I also work as the president of the Museums Association for the wider Caribbean. So doing a lot of work regionally with Caribbean museum colleagues. So a lot of interaction, but then doing it in person takes some getting used to again.
Especially that's very interesting that you'd note that. I remember, because I'm a hugger, right? I like to hug, and you know, very much like used to doing that. And I think the most difficult thing for me when, you know, socializing started to become a thing again was to remember that, like, you know, elbow bumps were the new hug, and those sorts of things, which was, that felt very odd for me. But we do what we have to do, or you stay your distance altogether. But I think that was it felt so strange to me. But you mentioned, you mentioned the gallery, but for those who may not know, you know, what your position is and kind of your function at the gallery, if you could just share about a little bit in the context of the Cayman Islands National Gallery, please.
Great. Well, you know, the National Gallery is our country's national art museum. So it's got one of those funny titles that the term gallery, you think of commercial art gallery, a space to sell work, but actually we're a museum, and we're primarily an education institute for our country. So I was always into the visual arts when I was younger, but I wasn't very good at it. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to let this get me down. I can't paint or draw to save my life. So instead I decided to go into, I studied history of art, so that just like history, but the visual arts at uni, and decided to go into museum management. You know, museums, when we were young, growing up in Cayman, the National Museum was only opened in 1980, Culture Foundation in 1984. So if you think about formalization of culture in Cayman and the safeguarding of that cultural heritage, most importantly, these are very, very young institutions. And the gallery itself wasn't created until 1997. So technically we're the babies of the museums in Cayman, but we're playing catch up We have a very, very busy schedule of about 40 classes, workshops, events, and lectures a month. We house, it's a pretty intense program, and that's on site, both at our Esterly Tibbetts Highway location, but also we work at Fairbanks and Northwood every week. We go into the seniors' homes. We have now satellite exhibition spaces in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. So we're a multi-site organization based in, very close to Camana Bay in our main facility, but trying to be, trying to have accessible locations for the entire Cayman Islands community. And the Sister Islands expansion has been a really amazing project of the last couple of years, so relatively new. And my role is director. So I joined the gallery as education officer a long time ago. I'm also a journalist by training. I worked to help create Inside Out magazine, and worked at the Compass and in the tourism publications of Cayman Free Press in those days, and trying to kind of inject our culture and history more directly into those publications. And then moved into the gallery as education manager. I always joke that I've done every job there is possible there, from press and marketing to changing toilet rolls when I need to. But my main love and my career is a curator. So a museum curator is someone historically that cares for collections. In our case, art collection of the Cayman Islands. But I also work on sort of academic research and writing and publications around those. We're building a very large visual arts archive that reflects the history of our very unique Caymanian culture, and the development of our contemporary culture, which is obviously widening in conversation. So that's the day job, and I am very grateful to have this amazing role in our community, and get to feel like I'm helping foster culture and making a difference longer term. So very grateful for it.
And needless to say, your hands are full. But thank you for sharing about yourself with everyone this afternoon, and the work that you and your team continue to do. And that's, we want to kind of dive into that and what you guys have been up to now. I think that for those who are less aware of, some of the things that were still up and running in our community, because I think it was easy to fall into a pattern of, okay, everything is closed except the food establishments and the hospitals, when in reality, many of our institutions had made a shift. Last week, I had the opportunity to have some of the team from the National Museum in the studio talking about, what they had been up to. And so excited to have you here this afternoon, because certainly the National Gallery, by no stretch of the imagination, had stopped working and stopped sharing and stopped providing services to our community through your platform. But how did the National Gallery, like, what I saw one thing in particular, and I'll share about it in a little bit, but you guys were busy during the curfews and lockdown, as you said, trying to provide a community service. What did you guys do during the curfews and lockdown when people couldn't physically come into the gallery?
Well, that was the big question at the beginning. So this was around the 17th of March. We suddenly thought, how do you function as a museum if you don't have people come into your space? If you close your doors and you're based around the National Collection, which requires people to come into your site, how do you function? How do you continue to provide this critical service? And of course, museums around the world are looking at this right now. It's not the first time we've asked ourselves this question, because, of course, when we look at our remit as the National Gallery, while we're based in Grand Cayman, we were very, very cognizant that, we have our wonderful communities in the Sister Islands. Of course, I'm biased. Like I said, I love to travel to the Sister Islands. Good excuse to go there. And we've had weekly programming in Cayman Brac for about 10 years, an after-school club for kids, but also different types of adult programming, cine clubs and things like that over the years. And we work with Simone Scott, who's a visual artist, as many people know Simone, in Cayman Brac. But I'd mentioned that we'd started these satellite spaces, but we were also exploring ways that we could convert the exhibitions in Grand Cayman to be an online experience. And we've been looking at this for about 18 months. So we had some of the research already done. We'd filmed a couple of these. And the way that these virtual exhibitions work is we use the sort of that real estate technology where you kind of walk through different rooms of a house that's for sale. It's the same idea, but you walk through the gallery space and you can stop in front of any painting that you want to have a closer look at. You can click the button, the label pops up to tell you about the work and the artist. So we've done a couple of those. We just opened a really beautiful exhibition that came down last week called The Island of Women. And this exhibition invited 26 local artists to look at the contribution women have made to the wider history of the Cayman Islands. You know, we often talk about our heritage, about the men that went away to sea and kind of forged this remarkable country that we live in today. But we've had some great times over the years when we've done maritime inspired exhibitions, actually inviting, you know, women that stayed behind to come and talk about, you know, the amazing contribution that they made. And that really forged the basis of this Island of Women exhibition. So that was one of our first online projects as soon as we went into lockdown. We filmed that within the first week, and we were able to get it online within a matter of days. So people weren't having any restrictions to still enjoy the exhibition, but they could do it at home. Of course, with that, there's always educational sort of activity sheets and lesson plans around the exhibitions themselves that we were uploading very quickly. So it was a combination of more sophisticated digital programming and exhibitions, and a lot of social media use. So even we haven't slowed down on the social media. We've posted every single day, a minimum of once, mainly twice a day since the beginning of lockdown, sharing a different local artist in Cayman, different local artwork, or an educational resource. That's just a couple of things. We've also done artist talks where we've invited local artists to speak to us from their studios, letting us know how they're faring in lockdown and what they're creating. And I think one of the key takeaway projects, you know, all of these will have longevity on the website. But we were able to upload 200 artworks from the National Art Collection onto the website with the biography of the artist, with the description about the work. So that now is the most comprehensive archive of Caymanian visual arts in our country, and completely accessible to schools and anyone that's interested locally or internationally to research about Caymanian art.
And I just took a sneak peek on your website, which I've posted in the Facebook feed, nationalgallery.org.ky, and I see some of the videos and the postings from your Island of Women and the various interviews with women like Miss Lucille Seymour, Miss Patrice Donalds, Miss Nasaria Sakushalet, that are up there, and others. And so you have a very robust website. I normally learn of your things through social media. So I will, that's my spot to find out what the National Gallery is doing. But now that you've mentioned, you know, like the virtual space, I took the opportunity to visit the website. And so for anyone who wants to see some of the interviews and just about anything else National Gallery has going on, please do visit their website, nationalgallery.org.ky. And it's beautiful, by the way, even just like the front landing page, and just I'm quite eager to see what you have going on here with your interviews, actually.
There's a lot to see. So the interviews we access through the blog page. Yes. And we're going to continue doing those. We're really grateful to many of the artists that we worked with. It was a chance to kind of look inside their studios. We don't often get that kind of access. We love the concept, and we will definitely continue doing that as we roll forward. And I think that's really, you know, one of the big takeaways for us is, you know, museum engagement, community engagement around culture and heritage. What are the access barriers that people in our community have to coming to museums? They can sometimes feel a bit intimidating. You know, you come up to this kind of big white box, which is the National Gallery. It's a very contemporary looking space. It's kind of visual art. If we're not comfortable talking about visual art, you know, it can feel a bit intimidating. And one of the really important things for us is that there's no cost to enter the National Gallery. You don't have to pay for anything. You come in, it's completely free to everyone in our community. Most of our programs are free as well. we really work hard to try and find corporate partners, and of course have some government support as well, to make sure that those programs are free to everybody. So there's no cost prohibitive. But of course, if you can't come down because you're on lockdown, or maybe you just live a bit too far away and you don't have public transport to the site, you know, what are other ways that we can continue to work to get these programs, activities, beautiful artworks into your space, so that they are fully accessible?
And I think you mentioned something very important, which I actually don't think a lot of people realize, is that so much of what the National Gallery does is absolutely free of charge to the public, right? That you can come to the gallery for free. And I remember the first time I learned that, I always thought that, like, you know, you generally, when you come to the exhibits, you pay. And I don't even remember how I happened on that information. I was at the gallery and I think I was there for like an event, that someone had scheduled at the space. And there was someone I was talking to someone from the gallery, and I inquired because I have a niece that is very much a creative and likes those kind of spaces. And so I was asking, you know, about the events at the gallery, and it was the person that was talking to that mentioned to me, oh no, you can come to the gallery for free, and this is when we're open and such. And so I think that it's, I mean, granted, in the curfew times, that was not a relevant conversation. But as restrictions are lifted, and I'm certainly going to get to that question, what does that now mean for you guys? But as restrictions are lifted, and eventually we will look towards more normalcy, and, you know, look forward to visiting the gallery in person and such. You know, that is something that's important for people to know, that they can come in for free. And do they have to reserve us? Like, is the gallery open now, or are you guys still?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I suppose we should have hit off with that question. We are open. We've been open for about 2 to 3 weeks, about 3 weeks now. I think life is going so quickly, right? Our time is running away. So 3 weeks we've been open. We opened a new rotation of our National Art Collection upstairs. So that's sort of work that spans the history of Caymanian art. And this time we've hung the entire collection on a thematic show that explores the evolution of our relationship with the ocean in Cayman. So it starts with this story of our grand maritime heritage, you know, which we all know, but we often don't have an opportunity to see that in a museum environment or in pictures or paintings, beautifully interpreted by our local art community. And then we sort of merged through the decades of the 80s, 90s, sort of more contemporary conversations, to looking at this evolving relationship now, in terms of we're as reliant on the ocean in many ways as we ever were, and what that looks like now through the eyes of artists. So that's upstairs. We've got that open in mid-July. And then next week we are, literally flipping an exhibition upstairs as we speak, and we'll be open in the lower gallery on Monday. And of course, there's a beautiful small Bendel Hydes exhibition on in our third gallery as well. And again, as you said, there's no admission costs. We work very hard to try and raise funds in other ways. And obviously that's a challenge this year now, because we're looking at a very, very different climate for fundraising. You know, there's been a lot of very urgent organizations to contribute to. So we are looking at ways that we can adapt further. But we're trying to raise revenue through membership, through event rentals, as you referenced. Through the wonderful gift shop that we have, which features a lot of local artisans. And all of those things together, including corporate partners for education, allows us to kind of keep the costs at nil for the community. And I think we're one of the only public cultural spaces in Cayman that don't charge admission permanently.
And one thing I want to share with the listening public, because I think a lot of people have curiosities about what the National Gallery does, or even when the art exhibits are available, and when they're, you know, like, especially if I remember, I think the last one I came to see, I think the last I was there was when you guys did your evening event for the opening of the Bendel exhibit, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was last I was there. And I'd been on, you know, on a few other occasions before, but I know, and I say this hopefully to the benefit of the listening public, I don't consider myself any kind of art buff by any stretch of the imagination. I am far from it, but I like creative spaces, right? And it there, and I like to see what people produce. I can't paint, draw, any of that. Right? My art is talking. So, but I like to I like to see what other people do. I can respect that. I admire that. But I know some people may not come because they may feel intimidated because they're like, well, I don't know what it's going to be like. And what do I have to, how much do I have to know? Am I going to look silly? Every time I've come to the National Gallery, as much as I don't know, I always enjoy my visit there. I always learn something new. There is always something that you can appreciate no matter what level of artistic knowledge that you have. And it is worth a visit for everyone at every age, in my opinion, no matter what the exhibit is. If it's something that catches your eye and the thought crosses your mind to say, oh, that might be interesting, or I wonder what that would be like. You're not gonna you don't have to pay to go. You can even if it's just for curiosity. It is one of my wishes that I wish everyone would visit the National Gallery, and from our kids straight up, it is a space that everyone can find enjoyment in and learn something new in. Because I love that, you have all the little write-ups, you have there are a lot of experiences to be had when you guys put the exhibits together, which I'm sure is an exorbitant amount of work because they're always so thoughtfully laid out, and I always feel like I'm going on a journey through the space, and I appreciate the work that you guys do. So I really just want to encourage people that especially if you've never been, or if you have not been in a while, take the opportunity to go, because there is so much to be learned and a very special experience to be had in spaces like the National Gallery, regardless of the exhibit. And if you have, my niece, now that you guys are reopened, and I know she's going back to school this week and first day to high school tomorrow.
Wow, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. I always feel I feel like it's yay, my niece is good. It's my achievement that it's a family affair. We're all going to Clifton Hunter tomorrow.
Totally. I'm like that with my nephew. That's a pack of people.
Yes, exactly. Because I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and so her mom is still my younger sister. No matter how much of a mom she is with her 3 kids, in my mind, she's still my baby sister. And so it's okay, Ari's going to high school, so we're all going on a field trip to Clifton Hunter. But I look forward to bringing her back to the gallery. And are you guys open what are the hours of the National Gallery now that you're open?
Great question. We're open from 10 till 5, Monday through Saturday. So Saturday is open as a normal work day. Open on Sunday or public holidays, but we're also particularly now we're really looking at ways to welcome people back to the site. So if people are interested and they can't get there until say 6, we can stay a bit late. We need you to call us and let us know what you need. So right now there is a booking system online, or you can call. Obviously the regulations changed again today in terms of public spaces. So we are looking at the booking system is only up as we navigate this pandemic kind of emergence moment. Normally you can rock up and walk in, and we are still accepting walk-ins as well. So if you happen to be driving past and you think, oh wait, that's the gallery, you can enter it either on Esther Tippett Highway or through the Cayman National Culture Foundation Drive, the Hartwell Theatre off Lawrence Boulevard. So there's 2 very easy ways to kind of find us. You can just come straight in, or if you'd like to book a tour so that there's a bit more space for you and your family and you're aware of social distancing, etc., you can just give us a call or jump on the website that you put into the chat, and there's a very clear booking form there. And again, if you want to book a tour or a school tour, we are accepting tours again now too.
That's excellent. We are going out to our first break of our time together. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about some more about what can we expect over the coming months and the coming weeks at the National Gallery. What you guys have up your sleeve through in the next little bit here. But we are going out to our first break of our time together. It's 5:33 on the Star 92.7 clock. We'll be back in just a few brief moments, so keep it locked for some Straight Talk on Star 92.7.
Join the conversation. The phone lines are now open. 943-3700. You can also find us on Facebook or email us at straighttalkci@gmail.com.
Reintroducing an old favorite and the only local family dining experience in Cayman. Champion House 2 have joined forces with the local eatery and is now open with a diverse food and adult beverage offering. Join us during the week for our buffet breakfast or lunch, or de-stress weekends on Fridays from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. and Saturdays until 12 a.m. Music to keep you entertained, catering services to suit any budget. Let the local eatery at Champion House 2 cater to you by calling 916-5736 or 329-5550, or place your order via Island Grub or the Let's Eat app today.
Are you a displaced hospitality and tourism worker or recent high school graduate who is looking to improve your education and skill set? Sign up for University College of the Cayman Islands Hospitality and Tourism programs. A degree, certification, or short course in hospitality and tourism will give you the professional qualifications you need to work in varying sectors of the industry and provide you with training key to the needs of the local and global marketplace. Classes start on August 31st. The registration deadline is August 28th. Qualified Caymans can apply for DOT scholarships. For more information, call 743-0583.
In this time of crisis, we are right here to help keep the power on.
We are here to serve you. We are committed to ensuring that you have electricity. Without electricity, not many things will work. We are right here to help keep the power turned on.
We are CC. You can come to us.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Ruth Anna on Star 927.
We are back, folks, and you are tuned into Straight Talk, brought to you exclusively by Star 92.7 Premium Radio. I am your host, Ruth Anna Young, with you until 6 o'clock this evening. It is now 5:36 on the Star 92.7 clock, and I am joined, for those who are just tuning in, I'm joined by Natalie of the National Gallery, and we're doing a bit of a catch-up, talking to her a bit about what they've done, during the curfews and how they made that transition, what they're up to right now, and certainly I want to find out what's up her sleeve and what's up their sleeve and the team at National Gallery as to what they may be unrolling, especially now that we've had another change of regulations today, so that might be cause for some new things to hit the public. So just looking forward to continuing this conversation with her. 943-3700 is the line in studio. You can also WhatsApp me at 224-1565. Email me at straighttalkci@gmail.com. Or for those of you who are tuned in via the Facebook feed, you can also leave your comments there. I see, and please forgive me if I pronounce your name incorrectly, and I think it's Theri Rukundo saying, hey, tuned in on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon. But right back to you, Natalie. So we've been doing a bit of catch up. I want to remind everyone before we talk about what you guys have coming up. For anyone who wants to get in touch with the National Gallery, whether that be to book a tour or find out what you guys have going on, or make an inquiry regarding scheduling an event, because I will tell you, I think it is a beautiful event space. I have been to a number of events there, and I think it's a beautiful event space. How do they reach out to the National Gallery?
So there's a number of ways. The easiest one, of course, is to call us on 945-8111. As you mentioned, the website earlier on is nationalgallery.org.ky. So that's org.ky. If you're interested in events, then just a prefix of the website is events@nationalgallery.org.ky. And again, if it's education, it's the same thing, education at the website. So it's pretty easy to remember. But again, if not, just jump on the phone or send us a message on Facebook or Instagram.
All right. And so thank you for sharing that information. So what do you guys have coming up? So you've made it, well, we've made it through curfews and lockdowns, and the twilight zone that we've been in over the last few months. Regulations have continued to shift, and you guys have reopened over the last couple of weeks. We've seen a shift in regulations again today. What can we expect? What can we look forward to at the National Gallery over the next few months, if you care to share?
Absolutely. And of course, as you said, today's new regulations have changed the policy again for what we're going to be looking at. So I think, like everyone else, we are trying to be very adaptive in this moment. We're also very aware about when we do open our borders, we might have to be adaptive again.
Mm-hmm.
So being a little cognizant of not going completely back to normal in terms of, we normally host a very large fundraising gala in November with 400 people. We're not going to be doing that this year because we're just very aware that, we might be going back to smaller numbers for periods of time as we've looked around our neighbors in the Caribbean opening up and how they're having to adapt again.
Mm-hmm.
So being a little realistic with that as well. Saying that, our primary focus for the National Gallery in terms of our audiences is our local community. We do benefit from visitors from abroad when they're in Cayman, but our main remit and our main programming focus is for our local community. And of course, that hasn't changed. So I mentioned that we were in the middle of opening or putting up a new exhibition. We're literally painting the walls today. The downstairs is all pale white and ready to have artwork installed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a new exhibition that we're opening on Monday, and it's called Interior and Interiority. It's this idea about looking at artworks that really, or artists that are grappling with capturing their interior space. It's something that artists have been doing for years, but of course it's very, very relevant because of the last 4 months. Artists haven't been outside painting beautiful seascapes or landscapes. They've been in their environments, in their studios, in their homes, in their bedrooms. So the show is really featuring works that are responding to this idea of being inside, being in an interior, or being in isolation, and how artists have been sort of navigating the emotions related to the pandemic. Very interesting show. I think there's about 20 local artists involved in that show.
Right.
And then we do also have, if you haven't seen it yet, a really beautiful online exhibition called Art Under Lockdown. It's a community exhibition. So rather than just working with emerging and professional visual artists, it includes students. I think our oldest artist in the show is about 80. And that is a completely online exhibition. And that, again, is direct to what people were creating from home in lockdown. And then we're really excited to be developing right now. It won't open until late November, but a solo show with the amazing Horacio Esteban, who many people know and love. So we're going to be bringing really a 40-year career of work that Horacio has created into the National Gallery in November, along with probably 4 other exhibitions under development for the rest of the year as well. So lots happening in terms of exhibitions.
Wow. And right now I'm doing a quick scan of your Art Under Lockdown online exhibit, and it's amazing to me what captivates an individual person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because, for example, you have and I won't give away too much because I want people to go online and check it out at nationalgallery.org.ky. But for example, I see Tom Gerling has a piece on there that says gas stations are places too. And so I saw that and I was like, it's so interesting what people like during experiences, during a single shared experience, what do each of us walk away from? And so in taking a quick scan, after the radio, I'll take more time to look at it, but just in scrolling through what is here, just the landing page, it's always so interesting how even in a circumstance such as this, how people use art. And as you've mentioned, this is artists of varying skill sets and from amateur to professional artists. And as I'm scrolling, I know I recognize seeing some of these pop up on social media where people, and even There is one here from Joanna Humphreys, who I don't know personally, but I think she's probably in a group or something, that is some common thread on Facebook. And I remember seeing, I think she posted and said that she'd, and I believe this is her daughter, without reading the description. And I remember her posting originally on Facebook and indicating that, the lockdown had allowed her time to get back to something she'd started, a while ago. And so now seeing it here in your exhibit, I think is phenomenal. But I look forward to really actually being able to go through the exhibit and seeing really what people were up to. And I think that's the interesting thing about art. It gives you some degree of perspective into what's crossed through someone's mind or how they see the world. So I encourage people to visit the National Gallery website, visit the National Gallery itself. And I was wondering, and you answered my question already, you mentioned that you're, and I understand, but I still shed a small little tear that you won't have your usual event your usual fundraising event, which is always quite fun this November. But hopefully 2021 will be a different year.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we'll all come back bigger and better, and just, because I know the social aspect of it is something we all yearn for. And the new exhibit that you said you're kicking off, remind me, when is that?
It opens on Monday. So
Okay.
we're just putting it up right now. We are looking now, with the regulations changing today, at potentially hosting some smaller evening events around it. So we'll be getting a lot of content up on the National Gallery What's On page on the website. It's really easy to find as one of the major tabs on our website, including sort of artist talks in person, but probably some opening socials as well, so long as we can obviously adhere to our health regulations, social distancing. We'll probably host events outside in a safe space and limit the numbers into the gallery at any one time. But today obviously transforms again the way that we can welcome people back to the site. And just to touch on something you referenced earlier about what you're going to find inside the museum, to remove that sense of intimidation, is we try very carefully when we've got these 3 exhibition spaces to make sure, there might be a contemporary exhibition, which is really the area that's the intimidating part, right? Even Bendel's work. We love Bendel Hydes. He is the grandfather of art in Cayman, visual arts in Cayman, but he's an abstract painter. And it's abstraction. You can stand in front of it, and it might be a beautiful piece, but it can be difficult to interpret. Often for someone like Bendel, you're not even supposed to. You just enjoy the beauty of the color. But there's always going to be works that we call realism or illustrative work that are just beautiful watercolor paintings of scenes in Cayman that are very easy to access and recognize. So, at any one time with these 3 exhibition spaces, we can have more traditional shows, more contemporary shows. So there really is something for everybody to come down and enjoy. And then our family fun days, we're looking at reopening. These are sort of activity mornings on a Saturday where there's free art activities that are designed to encourage family together time. So rather than kind of dropping your child off for an after school club, which we also are just launching our after school program again next week. But there are different types of ways of coming down and taking a tour with your family, with activity sheets for the kids. And one thing that is a really critical component that we mentioned, the education side of what we do, welcoming school tours back either in a on-site environment, especially now with the numbers that we were just talking about today, or we can now do virtual tours of the exhibition spaces with groups and schools through platforms like Zoom. So lots and lots of different ways of accessing those exhibitions and programs going forward.
Excellent. And if you could you tell me a little bit more about your after school program? Because I'm sure there are some curious parents who certainly want to know about that.
Absolutely. We've had a long-term after-school club called Walker's Art Club. It's a collaboration with Walker's Law Firm, and there's 6 different components. It's 6 different classes. It's pretty much one every day of the week and one in Cayman Brac. And it starts with foundation, so really like 5 to 7-year-olds. Then we have our primary school kids. We go up to secondary, and then we have a really a wonderful teen program, which is designed to help teens that are doing CXC or GCSE art or the US equivalent to actually develop their portfolios for the examination process. So there's a lot of different components. Again, it's a free club. It's through the support that we have. And again, it is dependent upon that support. If that was a change, then we'll need to adapt it somewhat. But the registration opens online on Monday morning at 9 a.m. You can call us this week to find out a little bit more about it. It's a year-long program. So it's designed to take students really all the way through these curriculum-based learning opportunities rather than just kind of a fun activity club. There's a lot of learning objectives involved in the class. But then, of course, we do have drop-in fun Saturday morning stuff as well if you're just interested in throwing a bit of paint around in our studio and getting creative. So there's different types of family. Sorry? Is that only for kids?
Yes.
We do have adult classes as well. And actually, one of the things we're going to be looking to get back to doing is more lectures and sort of skill development classes. And we've worked with some really wonderful instructors and artists in Cayman to host those. And those are really designed around our exhibition program. So we're just developing those right now, but you can definitely jump on the website in the next week or two and actually see what will be happening in terms of adult classes as well in the next couple of months.
Okay, because getting in the studio and throwing paint around, and I'm sure you don't necessarily mean that completely literally.
In the studio, it's fine. We really do that, but not in the gallery spaces.
So I feel like that sounds like fun to me. So I would certainly like to hear about when you roll out the adult classes. I'll be sure to check in. And I have to I'm gonna be a little bit biased here because it didn't dawn on me immediately when you talked about the virtual exhibit, but I was scrolling as I've just continued to scroll through, and it's amazing who you don't know are artists in their off time. But I see one of your pieces in your virtual exhibit is from my colleague Sam Twist called Sound Mind. And I mean, there's only one Samantha Twist.
Sam is a really prolific painter. She's she paints a lot, but it's the first time she's been in one of our projects. And I think this is what's been really so uplifting to be involved in an exhibition like Art Under Lockdown. As you said, we're in isolation. People are responding in very different ways. Some of our professional artists haven't painted anything because they had the sort of creative block from this. Other artists have never painted before and started painting for the first time. And as you said, I'm a big believer that everyone is creative in some way. And I dance more than I paint. I really can't paint or draw, but I love to dance. We have different ways of expressing ourselves, and now more than ever we have to find ways to kind of channel the angst that we're all feeling. And even if we've had a very positive lockdown experience, we can't not empathize with our neighbors, with the world right now. So just like Hurricane Ivan, and the aftermath of Ivan, when we came out of Ivan, there was an immense community spirit. But then a few months later, it was getting very exhausting, and keeping up the energy was really difficult. So we're also looking at ways that we can weave art through wellness programming at the gallery. We have a labyrinth that you can walk. We have the beautiful gardens that you can come and just sit in and relax. You can come in and see the artwork if you want to, but of course you don't have to even come inside the door. And looking at ways that we can collaborate with the hospital and different other wellness centers to weave art through that. And you don't have to be a good painter, it's just getting it out, isn't it? Expressing yourself and expressing what you've been through or are continuing to go through in this moment of great uncertainty. We still don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months' time. So we need to ensure that we're giving ourselves the chance to be expressive, to put wellness first, and community first. That community spirit that you see in that Art Under Lockdown exhibition is incredibly uplifting.
Yes. And did you guys do was it a children's contest?
We did a children's exhibition, and we've got another one coming up online. It will look just like this, a virtual exhibition. There were a couple of other, I think IRG did a student exhibition, I think. We helped judge a couple, so there have been a few going around. And I think, again, now the schools are getting back. We often work with the school community with we create around artworks and cross-curricular learning. Those are all downloadable, by the way, on our learning section of the website, resources for teachers and families. There are like scores of downloadable art activities and lesson plans, all based on Caymanian art and culture and heritage. So specific to our community, that are all free for download as well. So again, that's a really great way of learning about cultural history in Cayman, whether you've arrived on the island or your generations back. They're really fun ways to engage with your students and your own kids. So that will be an exhibition coming up as well. And I think anyone that wants to get involved in terms of art, either taking a class, learning a class, just seeing the artwork on display, or actually participating in an exhibition, just need to get in touch with us, and we'll let you know all the ways that you can do that.
Excellent. So as we wind our way down to 6 o'clock, Natalie, I would like you to take just a few minutes to give your final thoughts, wrap-up thoughts, and reminders to the listening public before we close out the show.
Well, I want to say a huge thank you, Ruth Anna, for having me on today. I can't believe it's been the first time either, because obviously we chat. So it's a personal chat, it's a published chat, and it feels like we're in a room having a coffee together, which is wonderful. I just want to say a very big shout out to my team at the National Gallery, who have worked flat out in lockdown, full time, haven't stopped to get these resources up. They really are a remarkable bunch, very, very blessed to be working alongside the team. And it's a small team, about 10 of us, not full time, but 8 full time, a couple of part timers. And I think just as you said, not thinking of the gallery as this kind of dusty museum space that is, a very inaccessible, intimidating. What's on the walls are these beautiful displays of our cultural history. A lot of our artists are capturing schooners and maritime heritage, as you'll see upstairs right now. Others, the beautiful landscapes that we see in Cayman. There's so much to be inspired by in this moment. So come on down, just come and say hi, come in the doors. Again, the team that I mentioned are all super friendly and very welcoming. And you're right, if you haven't been, I love the challenge that you sent out. Again, if you haven't been, come on down and say hello. Look on the website for the programs and events. If you want to talk more about the After School Club and whether it works for your child, give us a call this week. Talk to Maya Mutu, who's our education coordinator. She'll tell you all about it. 945-8111, and just get creative in a moment that we need some very important creative outlets, and we'd love to see you in the space soon. And I do want to say thank you, Ruth Anna, as well, for keeping us engaged and informed throughout the whole of lockdown. You have been fantastic. You and people like Radio Cayman were our lifeline, and really, really grateful for all the work that you guys have done.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and it was a pleasure to catch up with you on air in this space. I would like to also thank you and your team for the work that you guys are doing. I think that art and history and culture is incredibly important, it's like, as I've watched what the National Gallery has become over the years, it's incredible to see. And I look forward to being able to come back into that space. I think it's like, to me, it's like you say, like you can come to the National Gallery and not even come inside, right? Like if you just want to come and enjoy the outdoor space, if that's where you want to start with your experience, or sometimes you just on some days, you just kind of need a beautiful, calm space to be in.
Yeah.
the courtyard of the National Gallery is certainly one of those spaces, and for some maybe a nice little introduction to what the National Gallery has to offer, and to open them up to coming inside and seeing what you have to offer as well. But thank you guys for continuing to do just really carrying on this work and helping to engage the public during this time and coming on air and sharing all this information. Shout out to Cameron Castillo, who I see is tuned in via Facebook as well. But we are about to turn the dial to 6 o'clock this evening. And Natalie, pleasure to have you on. And guys, that brings me to the end of today's show. I'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place, right here at 5 p.m. sharp on Star 92.7 for some more Straight Talk.
Let's get to the point. More Straight Talk to come.